Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of my favourite people and some of the world's biggest stars. And a man who literally changed the world with his music in the 80s was a man called Nick Heyward. He was part of Haircut 100 and he joins us on the phone now. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Alex?
Yeah, I'm delicious, thanks. And I tell you what it is about you. Whenever I need a good tune, I always stick on one of yours because they really are built for radio. Did you know that when you did it? No. You just did your best, really. It must have been. I was a commercial artist before I got into music, and I did sleeves, record sleeves, covers and things, and I wanted to make music that would fit the record sleeves. And the record sleeves I did were always really quite up, and because I was in commercial art, there was always like slightly pop art, and I really loved that whole Andy Warhol thing, and going right back to, some of the film posters. I used to design posters as well started in my mum and dad's pub, with the local pianist. So I was really into that side of thing and promoting things. So when it came to the music, I think it probably just came out naturally. I think I was just born a kind of commercial person. I really enjoy commercial art. Yeah.
Whatever it is.
It's interesting, isn't it, how the line between music, and I suppose it's all just via the fingers, whether it's music or whether it's art or whether it's some form of performance, it's the same thing for people like you. An artist is an artist. Yeah,
you just do it. That's what you do. If like the new stuff I'm doing, if somebody said to me, "Oh, this isn't going to sell anything," it wouldn't stop me doing it. It would be like I'd hear that and ignore it and carry on. It's not why I do it.
It's interesting you say that because, of course, music now, people are releasing music all over, left, right and centre, new albums, new singles, and nobody's buying them because they can get them for free on the internet. You sort of had the heyday of that when pop stars could be stars.
Yeah, but I didn't see anything. It was the record companies always find out some means to taking the majority of the sales, which is just the way it goes anyway. Now it's just, there's no difference really. It's just now between Apple, Spotify, and all the majors. So no change there. I'm kind of glad that I've become an independent artist, really, because you've got this really nice. It's like I'm a painter or something, and you've got a little studio in St Ives. I haven't got a studio in St Ives. I'd love one, but a little art studio, and you're just kind of like doodling away, and you've got this audience that they like your doodles. So. And then there's this honest transaction with them, where they go, "Oh, I like that musical painting you've done, and here's your £4.99, and it's not nice. I like that. It means you can do another painting. You can go out and buy paints. You can, keeps you in canvases for the year and pays your rent on the studio. So as long as you can do that, I'm a happy bunny."
And I guess it's totally sincere, isn't it? They're not buying it for any other reason than they like you and they like what you do.
Yeah, and that's just beautifully, that's out of your control. I love that. It's always a massive surprise when you get somebody you go, "What? How did they find the music?" And that's the loveliness of modern technology. It's helped me as a songwriter because I have my phone on me all the time, so I can take pictures of everything and put them on Instagram immediately. So there's images which always, I see them as little record sleeves anyway. And there's that. It helps with the notes when you can put in your lyrics and then you've got them dated, and then you can sing ideas in, play ideas in. So when I went into the studio lately to record, it was all right there. I put little hearts next to the ones I thought were really promising. So it was just phone in the left hand, and then grab the guitar in the right hand and put them down. And I whizzed through 20 songs almost immediately. And I thought, wow, this is really good. This is so much easier than having a cassette player or reels of tape and stuff, and it being a slow process. This is really good. I like it.
I'm interested by your music because, for me, I grew up listening to it and now I play it on the radio. I suppose your biggest hit was Whistle Down the Wind, but for me, your best song was Blue Hat for a Blue Day, which is just such a great radio record. Am I right about that, or am I wrong about your best record?
Well, it's all views, I have one. I like this song I did in about '93 called Kite. It was just one of these magical moments where
it was through struggle that this really sweet tune popped out, and it took off naturally in America with its own gust of wind, and so I liked that. But then Blue Hat for a Blue Day for me was, I had that title for ages. I wanted to write a song called Blue Hat for a Blue Day, and until suddenly, one day because I used to love going into the studio to make like demos, because when I could make the demos, it meant I could be Ringo, and I could be Paul McCartney, and I could be everyone in the Beatles. I used to call myself the Neatles, and then like do lots of stuff, and it was all really ramshackle and not great, but it was a sound. So I used to really enjoy making those, little demos, and Blue Hat for Blue Day came out of that, and then I made another demo of it with Dino Palladino, who was a fantastic bass player. He's amazing. I mean, I think he plays in the Who at the moment. I mean, it's just incredible. He was. I was in one of the demo studios, and I just said, "Do you know any fretless bass players?" And they said, "Well, there's this guy up from Wales at the moment, and he's the only fretless bass player I know in the area." So anyway, in comes this enormous Welsh guy smoking a little roll-up, and the roll-up he was smoking, he was like, his head was right touching this kind of ceiling, and his neck was going to the music, and I've never heard playing like it. He's such a, it really, he was on Wherever I Lay My Hat as well, that bass playing.
Oh wow!
And so it was a joy to actually have all these great musicians around as well. I mean, yeah. I mean, I've been, blessed with that anyway. I mean, in our local area, I mean, when we started the band, Les Means, what a great bass player. Graham Jones, great guitarist, and meeting Blair Cunningham. Wow, that was an amazing moment. I mean, this guy had drummed with the Jacksons. So
yeah.
when he joined, the band suddenly really genuinely took off live.
It's interesting, isn't it? When you see those session players with these live bands, sometimes they can be better than the star artist who's getting in the way. I mean, it can be magical when those guys come together. I was just in Vegas recording over there for a few weeks, and again, just some of those backing bands are sensational. To hear them play live is such a thrill.
Well, a songwriter is as good as the band and the producer and then the managers, and that's why it's that's why teams. I mean, teams are so important. It's never just one thing that makes, because there's so many ingredients that go into it. I mean, it's like a tin of tomato soup. It's not just because you get the tin of tomato soup, don't you? And you never think of all the stuff that goes on around it. That's why I loved watching Mad Men, because watching Mad Men was a bit like the company I used to work for when I was first out of school. And there was this place called House of Wizards, and I used to deliver to J. Walter Thompson and McCann Erickson and stuff that was in the program, and turning up as a sort of junior whippet into these offices, and they were exactly like that. I met people like Don Draper. There's a guy who worked at our company called Ken, who drove a green skimitar and had a big medallion and David Essex hair, and he was a studio manager, and everybody just thought he was the coolest thing ever.
That's brilliant.
Well, I did anyway.
For you, when you look back on your career now, especially when we see these videos, I mean, it looks like your son in a way. How do you view that period now? I mean, is it exciting? Does it feel like someone else? How do you look back on those videos that sort of made you a star?
Yeah, hindsight is lovely. You can look back from this present moment, and it's looking back with a kind of, it's nice. It's like kind of, because you see you recall all the insecurities, and all the fear and all the worry and all the anxiety of that time. But you just didn't know why, because when you were young, you had all that stuff quite intensely, generally. I'm not saying everybody does, but especially artists, I mean, they gravitate towards that, towards perfectionism, and therefore trying so hard to get things right that they never start something and then they never finish something, or then they do. I mean, there's how many unfinished pieces of music there are laying about creative people's homes. So I recall those times quite haphazard. You thought you knew what you were doing, but you didn't know what you were doing, but you were doing it anyway. And you were making some great decisions and some awful ones, and they weren't governed by you sometimes. They were sometimes just sabotage you stuff, which comes from insecurity. Sometimes you're nervous, which also comes from insecurity, where you're coming across as too confident, but that's because you're not very confident at all. So, I look back and go, bless him. He was doing his best and could have done better, but, it's never too late to do better. And but I look back with fondness.
Yeah, that's the problem with life. We can all look back on our lives and think we could do better. You've got to be careful with that, because you can sort of have it as an anticlimax.
Yeah, you can't be hard on yourself. You did the best you could do at that time. Sometimes you're not even trying to do the best. You're trying to do your worst sometimes, and you don't know why you're doing that. I mean, I remember sometimes trying to actually, I was quite pleased, I remember, when a song got to number 40, and I thought, that's strange, that's not what, I don't think most people would be pleased if their record peaked at number 44. And, but, that was the person then.
Right. And why did you want it to go in so relatively low?
Probably at the time, I was thinking it just felt like I was using the clutch a bit more. Right. And I was, learning to use the brake. And that was nice, because it literally was a kind of, it shot off like a greyhound at the beginning. It was really overwhelming. It was great. When you're in a band and it's overwhelming, it's good, because you're sort of together, yeah. And this thing is happening to everyone, and you got a solidarity going, which is really pretty healthy.
Talking of health, you seem to avoid the excesses of the 80s. So many didn't survive. How tempting was it to get involved in all that stuff, the drugs, the sex, the rock and roll? Did you get tempted? I spoke to Midge last week, and he was talking about alcohol. It's almost impossible not to join the party. How tricky was it for you?
Well, I grew up in a pub. My parents were publicans, worked for Charrington's, and even way back, Mum's parents, they had an off license, and then her parents had fruit stalls in Camden. So I really should have been in madness, really. We came from that kind of Camden area. So I'd kind of been around alcohol, really, from an early age. My dad always said he was a failed alcoholic. So it was always around. So I was a bit like, I'd seen what effects it had, and luckily, I was okay with alcohol. It was all right. I smoked for England during the early 80s, through about 83 to 88, 89, but I nipped that one in the bud. My parents died of emphysema, so smoking kind of ran in our family, probably from the war. And drugs, I just could not handle it. There's a thing called a birthday book, and I read it once, and it said, whatever you do, people born on this day, don't ever take drugs. And I can understand that, because, one puff on a cigarette and I'm literally swirling, spiraling, sizzling, and so it's not for me. I steer clear of it, like the plague.
It's interesting, isn't it, when you look at the success and the revival of the 80s. The 80s Invasion is coming back on tour next year. You're going to be back on the road. What's it going to be like recreating these songs, and how difficult are they in terms of re-performing them? Is it going to be a stretch, or are you just utterly excited by it?
No, it's not, because they're all recorded with real instruments, so they're really quite easy to recreate. And even Whistle Down the Wind, I managed to get hold of the original strings. So due to lovely technology, you know, I can actually have the original strings playing, which is lovely. I've just started using that. For ages I didn't have that, and then so that's nice. And yeah, because they're real instruments like accordions and marimbas and drums, bass, guitars, it's pretty simple. So yeah, they sound pretty like the records, which is good, and it always adds that live thing anyway. So I'm looking forward to it, and they're all guitars, really. They're all guitar-based songs, all written on guitars, really. So it's just as long as you bring a guitar and people play. They're, you know, great bands. I played with them before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played with Ben on tour. We've done a tour together. Played with Midge a few times. Played with Big Country the other day. So now it's like a boys club getting together and going out. And I love theatres and concert halls. You know, so this is a chance to sort of play those venues as well, because I probably wouldn't do them on my own.
No, it's fantastic. I know people are very excited about it. It's called the 80s Invasion. It's on tour next year. You can find out more by putting in 80s Invasion. I know you've also got an exciting time ahead working on 2 new albums. We'll talk to you again about that, because this must be something really exciting for you to get your music back on tape.
Yeah, I kind of started again, and I thought, why have I left it 15 years? It's just like picking up where I left off, and it sounds pretty much exactly as is. And I thought, how silly. But then again, not wanting to, you know, berate yourself, you just kind of, okay, well, it did. It took all that time. I don't know why. I had some health problems. That had a lot to do with it as well. You have these things, they go in cycles, and I started recording with my son in his bedroom. And then I went on holiday, see my girlfriend's parents, and met up with my old buddy Ian, who recorded all my 90s stuff. And he lives on a houseboat in Key West.
Wow.
And we ended up recording together when I was out there. So I came back up from off holiday with 10 new songs.
Wow.
Well, so I got the album with my son, you know, so I got like a British album and then a US one. So I don't know whether to release them together, or I'm like a bus stop, really. It's like there isn't a bus for ages, and then suddenly a load of them come along. And because I've got these 2 coming, I feel like I'm going to go back out to Key West and do some mixing and probably do another one, because they don't take long. It's really weird. You can do albums really quickly, it seems, now with modern technology. It's really good.
Well, that's the problem. The kids can do it in their bedroom quicker than any producer can. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, it's good. And out in Key West, I worked with local blues guys. This guy Joey Marciano on drums, who's just like Charlie Watts, and they've got that kind of American feel about them, where they just, you know, yeah, all right, you know, just play us a song, man.
Yeah.
And you're off, and we did 12 drum tracks in one day. So
fantastic. Well, you could sort of release it as an A and B side and call it Atlantic, couldn't you? There could be, yes, have that from me. That's my gift. Call it Atlantic.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's funny you say that, because I went over on the boat and crossed the Atlantic twice. And in the Atlantic Ridge, the weather was full on. And it's 30 miles deep. And then you can't see anybody for miles anyway.
Yeah.
And you get this wonderful feeling of expansion, and you really have a deep respect for the beagle all of a sudden, and the Mayflower, and all, you know, pioneers that were just crossing that Atlantic. I mean, wow, it's fearsome. And we were on a, you know, floating shopping centre basically. So it's whether it's a floating shopping centre or the beagle, it's tough stuff.
Well, listen, I wish you all the best. You got the 2 new albums coming out before the end of the year, and of course 80s Invasion next year. Nick Heyward, great to talk to you.
Likewise, Alex.